Welcome back to Vitalise. So last week, Rebecca gave me some disgusting things to eat. And we were talking about tasting and seeing that God is good. And we were talking about how that's the start of our journey of faith. So what I thought would be really good today is actually if we share a little bit about our own stories of faith, about how our faith grew in God, and had a little bit of fun to this. While each of us is giving our testimony, our story, the other person is going to draw a portrait of us. Okay? Now, I'm not very good at drawing. I don't know what Rebecca's like. So I apologise, Rebecca, with what mine's going to look like.
And vice versa.
I guess I'll go first and you do the drawing.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Yeah. I shall take my seat over here.
Okay. Great. So my journey of faith really started when I was about 7 years old. I'd always been going to church. My mum and dad were both believers, so I'd always kind of gone to church. But when I was about 6 or 7, I think it was, I went away, and that was the first time really that I realised that actually it was about my own decision of faith. It wasn't about my mum believing, my dad believing, anyone else in my family. It was about me and my choice. And even at 7 years old, I kind of had this idea that actually, no, I believed in God and that I wanted to trust him for myself. And so 7 years old, I became a Christian. But that's not really where my story finishes. Because as I grew, I learned a lot more about God. I learned to trust him. My faith in him built. And I learned about how much he cared about me, how much he loved me. I learned about all the promises that I could go to him whenever I needed it. But really, if you looked at me and looked at everyone else and my friends who didn't know God, there wasn't a lot of difference in us. We acted the same, we used the same words that maybe we shouldn't in the playground. There really wasn't anything that said, hey, this faith stuff means something. It was about when I was about 12, 13, I went away on a Christian camp. And while I was away, God really spoke to me. And actually I realised that if this faith stuff means something, if this faith in God means something, then actually I needed to be different. I need to be different from other people around me. I needed to change. And really it was that point where I decided, yes, I'm going to follow God. I'm going to follow God. My faith in him is going to grow. And it was at that point where I started to act differently. I started to live out my faith. Not just believing and understanding, but actually it made a difference to me and in the way I acted. So really that's the start of my journey of faith. Rebecca, how's this picture coming on? Does it, and do you capture my best side or... Oh, crumbs.
You know you said you're a wonky Darren, and I think I'd go.
Do I really have? Is this ear much bigger than this ear?
Well, the problem was, Darren, is you kept moving your head, so I couldn't see your left ear, right ear. So it's smaller, I'm afraid. I think I'd go to somebody else.
I will forgive you only because I can't draw.
Good.
Shall we swap places?
Let's swap, Darren. Let's pop this. I'm going to pop that there so it doesn't distract you too much, Darren. So my journey started really when I was probably about 10 years old. I began going to church regularly with my gran and my great aunt. I loved going to church. It was great fun. I had loads of friends at church. But it was very much just something to do on a Sunday morning. When I was about 13, I started going along to the Lighthouse, something that maybe many of you would have been along to, a children's holiday week. And I'd go along and I would help. And one year, when I was about 15 or 16, I was sitting in a meeting one morning. And somebody challenged us. And they said, actually, where are you in your journey of faith with God? And where do you want to be? And at that moment I stopped and I thought, and actually at that point, in my journey with God, I knew he existed, I believed in him, but actually it was very much a Sunday activity. And as I was listening to this person talk, I thought, I want it to be more than that. I want it to be an everyday journey. I want to know what it means to walk every day with Jesus. And I made a commitment to Jesus on that day. I said yes to following him every step of the way. It hasn't always been an easy journey. There have been challenges along the way. But there have also been so many amazing highlights and stories that I can share of what God's done in my life. A few years later, I left school at the age of 18 with absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. The only thing that I was absolutely certain of was that it meant no more education. Whatever the future held, I absolutely did not want to do any further study. God has an amazing sense of humour, because 3 months later, I left school in the middle of the summer, and later that year, in September, I found myself enrolled on a degree course. A degree in children's work and theology. And do you know what? It was the best decision that I ever made. I spent 4 years studying with some amazing people, learning so much more about God, having the absolute privilege of working alongside children and young people, sharing Jesus with them. Something that I'm still doing now. So that's something of my journey of faith. But I'm intrigued as to how my self-portrait is looking over there.
What do you think?
It's a lot better than I can do. We'll go with that. I'm going to give you that. I've got a funny looking arm, but other than that...
I know, the arm kind of went wrong.
Is that because I kept moving it?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, we'll go with that, yeah. Excellent. Anyway, we hope that it's just encouraging. Actually, do you know what? All of our stories are different. Each one of us has a different story to tell. Maybe take a moment to stop and think, actually, what's my story? What would I say if somebody asked me what my faith meant to me? What would I share? Talk to youth leaders. Talk to people in your church. Find out their stories. And check back in next week as we continue to look further at this subject of faith.